How many sheriffs are in this lawsuit against the Biden administration?
I think it's 6 sheriffs and 3 ICE agents.
Okay.
Is that counting Live Oak that just joined?
Right, that's not counting Live Oak.
Okay, so it's 7 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm truly surprised we haven't heard from anybody. Because my thinking was, we're going to file this lawsuit. We now to hear something good, but we're going to hear from some government entity wanting to come down and go through with the final.
And it's the first time.
Peel the onion back on you.
But we haven't heard. They haven't heard a word.
Because they know they're wrong. And they know that sheriffs are constitutional officers.
Right.
And everything about this is unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. I mean, to implement an open borders policy by executive order is unconstitutional. To abdicate your duty and responsibility to protect the sovereignty of the state of Texas and the United States of America is unconstitutional. To aid and abet human and sex trafficking is a violation of U.S. statute.
Right.
So
Indecency.
Indecency.
Yeah, it's we just, as a county, we have limited options on what we can do. So we've done everything we can.
Yeah, I mean, you can only go so far.
Right.
And that's the frustration, because people are looking at you, the closest level of governance to them, outside of the city itself, and they're saying, well, what can you do? And so you get frustrated, and you go into the state, and you're saying, well, where are the resources? How are you going to help us? I mean, because this is an invasion. People are coming through, destroying public property and private property.
And so leeching off the system.
Absolutely.
But I think, of course, we drew the line in the sand. His proclamation, state of emergency, in the same commissioner's court, we declared Kenny County a non-sanctuary county for illegal immigrants. So we've heard on both aspects. But I think, personally, we drew the line. I think I'm getting ready to cross that line and draw another one.
Well, you almost have to.
And tell them, okay, that's it, end of story. Because we're seeing illegal aliens, and trust me, if you cut me, I still bleed green to a degree. But if we catch a group walking the highway anymore, we take them up there, we stand back out on the highway the next day.
Yeah.
So
because it's a catch and release program.
I may have to take that step, and if I see some, load them up and take them back to the police.
Well, this whole thing about we're going to arrest them and charge them with trespassing, I mean, to me, it's insidious, because you're already violating federal law by coming into the United States illegally.
Right.
So what really does that do for you all to say that we're going to arrest them and charge them with trespass?
It's the easiest step that the governor can take that doesn't ruffle as many feathers. But I agree, it's not much of a deterrent. Yeah. They're not only violating, they're violating the sovereignty of Texas. We don't have a statute on the books that says they're violating sovereignty, but that's what they're doing.
But when you have a 1,200-mile border with a foreign nation and you are part of the United States of America,
right,
then they are violating your sovereignty.
Right. And I mean, you know all this, but on Article 1, the states had that authority beforehand.
Absolutely.
And they didn't even have to reserve it under the Constitution. They would have it anyway, but they explicitly reserved it just to make double sure that they would have it. And I think a lot of lawmakers and legislators and county officials all over Texas, they don't realize that. Either they don't realize it, or they don't have the courage to do something about it.
Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, Article 4, Section 4.
Right.
So what are the things that, if I were to become governor and this thing has still not been resolved, what would you want me to do day one?
Create a state agency that would supplement and replace Border Patrol. Not replace, but have our own agency that can do that. Because in another crisis like this, right now we're having to mix and match our resources to create some form of Border Patrol, which is not working right now.
No.
But
we haven't given them any real authority.
Right.
Correct.
Right. DPS can't even pursue off the highways very much.
Yeah.
They're pretty limited to highways.
And the bad guys know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
They know your rule of engagement.
Right. And all the smugglers are being female now, because the females.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because jail space and standards, you have to have an entire separate thing for females. And most counties, or no counties, I don't think, have enough for females. So they know if they send females as smugglers, they're not going to be jailed.
They're not going to put them in jail.
We don't have the facilities for them.
So they're adapting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, daily.
And we just have to try to stay ahead of that. That's why I'm writing that law plan up to see if we can get more intel to work towards what the final solution. But like he was saying, you talked about the criminal prosecution. Actually, before the governor mentioned, we had talked about it. if we catch them, say on his property like we did, in an ideal world, we can get them in, get them magistrated, take them for their preliminary hearing, see how they want to plead, to put guilty, not guilty. If they plead guilty on the stand, we can get them in and out in 3 or 4 days. It gives them a criminal conviction. And if they ever try for some type of benefits, or they're trying to apply for citizenship, that may be a check mark against them.
Yeah.
So it's not a big check mark, but at least it's a check mark. They'll have a criminal history.
But we've done this in the past. Even before I was county attorney, they've charged legal aliens with trespassing before.
Sure.
This isn't a new thing, and I think it's a new thing. The governor trying to make all the counties do it, but when was it? Brett Trant, y'all did that years ago.
We did it years ago, and it was a monetary fine right then and there.
Yeah.
It was a Class C misdemeanor.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a Class B now.
Class A with it
Class
enhanced.
A, and they're gonna spend some time in jail, and we can commute that. I mean, they can time served or whatever the case may be, depending on how the judge and the.
But after that
works
time
out.
served, are they deported?
If Border Patrol, and we've said this before, if Border Patrol won't pick them up and ICE won't pick them up, I will take them back.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's the only way. That's the only way we can do it. We can.
Yeah.
I am not going to kick them out on the street
Yeah.
and say, okay, you've entered illegally, you got a criminal charge. See you later. Have fun. No.
Because the rate of recidivism would just,
Right.
yeah.
And that violate his oath to his citizens
Absolutely.
in the county.
Absolutely.
So we've drawn the line. We just got to wait for it to, for like these three, once they get through a court.
And the other idea I also had is during sentencing, the judge can possibly give them 2 options. You can either do 260 days in jail, or you can repatriate yourself.
Yeah.
And we can facilitate that repatriation to where it's their voluntary choice. All we're doing is giving them a ride to the border.
And if you're caught coming back,
Then it would be an enhanced punishment.
Absolutely.
Of some type.
But
Absolutely.
part of what we're seeing now is, years ago, it was called an expedited removal. They'd admit it, and we could do it right there on the spot and send them back. But if they came back, it was a violation, which would be a felony. The U.S. attorney won't even take the cases anymore, no matter what. Even though they've committed a felony by returning, the U.S. attorney says, we're not going to take the case.
Well, how can the U.S. attorney not take a felony case of someone?
Because they're dictated by the Department of Justice.
That's right.
And that prosecutorial discretion.
Prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's why we've got to have that authority here in Texas to say that, we're going to protect our sovereignty. We're not going to allow these people to just, be released,
Right.
and we're going to charge them.
Yeah.
that's the only way we can do it. There has to be some type of consequence, which the federal government's not doing right now.
Yeah.
And if what we see here today, Austin will see tomorrow all the way up
Oh,
to
of
Chicago.
course. Yeah.
And so if we don't stop it here,
fentanyl,
or we
everything.
don't slow it down here, we're doomed.
Picks up speed.
And they're using our laws against us. The other day, a Border Patrol agent was interviewing a small girl, I think, 5 or 6 or so.
Yeah.
And they were in their office, and she's like, "Can I go to the restroom?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And he was not sure where it was, and she just walked out, went to the restroom somewhere, came back and said, "How did you know where the restroom was?" She's like, "I've been here 6 or 7 times."
They're being recycled.
Yeah.
Recycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you see these abandoned kids is the family units. When Border Patrol gets busy, the family units are the first ones not to, they won't even fingerprint them. They'll just,
Oh, I know. I saw that. I mean, they bring them
Yeah.
in and they're gone. They take the word for it. There's no verification or
right.
anything.
And so once the kids are used to have that family unit get in, we don't need you anymore. And instead of sending them back, I guess they just abandon them right there on the highway or wherever they're at.
Yeah.
They're expendable.
Yeah.
And what is immoral is that at the state level and the federal level, we are participating in human trafficking.
Right.
And sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about this thing. I mean, you expended $10,000, $12,000 of your own personal.
When late last year, Border Patrol went to 9mm pistols. So working as close as we do, I thought, man, it'd be a good idea for my people to carry the same gun, the same magazine, the same ammunition. In the event we ever got into
Yes.
that unmentionable deal, we could swap magazines with it.
Yeah.
We would have extra firepower. Well, there wasn't enough money in the county budget. I mean, I hadn't budgeted for it or anything, so I called a couple places, and Glock gave me a very, very good deal. So I didn't even take it to the commissioners. I just dipped into my funds and paid $7,000, got 12 pistols,
Glock 19s.
Glock 19.
Yeah.
And now that things are really getting hot, I just commissioned the guy to build me 3 ARs with a 10.5-inch barrel. And he's giving them to me at cost at $1,200 a piece.
Wow.
So right now I only got the funds for 3, but eventually we will get through 3 more. But it's something that I failed to budget, so hey, I'll get the funds where I can.
Yeah, but doesn't the Texas Department of Emergency Management, don't they have some?
That's
you'll laugh.
Needham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, we got a $7 billion surplus here in the
Right.
state of Texas, and so
Now-
what? $20,000 to me,
Right.
yeah.
drop in the bucket, right?
Well, Tatum, I honestly think that they're sincere, saying we can help, but the paperwork. And from a military officer,
I hate
how
bureaucracy.
much paperwork is involved just to get a raincoat? Send us an application, send us a document. We'll send you an application, fill it out, send it back to us. We'll review it, and if it meets criteria, we'll send you the actual application to apply for this stuff. And it
You ain't
gets
got time.
bogged down in the paperwork.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that always frustrated me with the federal government is the more paperwork, the better it is, which is not the case.
They should be on the ground here saying, what do you need? Give me a
Absolutely.
list.
Come do a site survey.
Have you had someone do that?
No.
Well, we had the two from Tatum come down and talk to us,
When they wanted something from us.
but they were here for 30 minutes.
Yeah, they wanted us to put it in a facility, a booking facility here in the county. Same thing they have in Del Rio. They want to put one of these well, they want to use our civic center, and we told them no, we can't use our civic. That's our emergency shelter. And so we're going to try to put it on about 60 acres that the county has. We have a detention center right now that we use we contract with the U.S. Marshal Service.
Well, we
Right.
contract with GEO.
GEO?
No, yeah, we contract with
Oh,
Marshal
GEO,
Service,
yeah.
and we contract with GEO to run the facility,
Yeah.
but the contracts all come through us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, the Tatum, I would think that they would send down a survey team, take
Sure.
a look and see what we need, how
Assessment
we need it,
team.
and
Yeah.
spend a couple of days, write stuff
Yep.
down, take a look at the map, let's go survey the area.
But instead, we have military contractors that come to us.
Yeah, they
come
came to
here.
us.
Say, what do y'all need? We can try to help you provide it with you. They're even willing to take out a loan of $400,000 to get things rolling. But, we're
We're at standstill.
we're at a standstill and getting funding for that. Because to us, that's the one solution we've seen that will actually secure the county
Yeah.
quickly. That's what they do professionally for a living every single day. And they actually have Texans that are deployed right now that want to come home if they are hired because they want to come protect their own state. I think that's great.
Yeah,
That's
and
absolutely
of course they're overseas, they're making $1,500-$1,600 a day.
Sure.
And they're willing to give that up to come home.
Yeah.
So,
Did you present that to Tatum?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
They weren't excited about it. They said that we could have a meeting with them, or they could have a meeting with them. But I was under the impression they would just fund it. That's what we need as a county. You asked what we wanted. This is what we need.
and
so no support when you guys wrote up your emergency declaration?
None at all. We didn't even get a call from Tatum.
you would think,
No one did. Even Goliad County didn't get a call. I mean, that's not just us. Everybody. I can't speak for every single county, but I know Goliad and us didn't, and we're the first ones to do it. So, like the judge from Goliad was saying, every time we have a hailstorm, they're blowing up my phone, calling me, do you need anything? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
We actually do a local state of disaster declaration. They don't even call.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
and like I've said, even if we bring in private security and we get it going and we get the county secured, it bleeds over to the next county and to the next county, and everything's starting secure. If it was our idea and the governor wants to take credit for it,
Yeah.
that's fine. I could care less. Let's do something.
Let's get the job done.
Yeah.
We were discussing issues with DPS the other day with the director, Steve McCraw, and we were I was approached by the guy, the camera system, that military grade equipment, it's the flare units, the whole 9 yards, top of the line stuff, and we're trying to get funding, but we can't. It's a $1.2 million project. And we brought this up with DPS, and he said, "Oh no, I know all about that. It's antiquated, it's old, this, that, and other. But we have game cameras. That we're using. Game cameras, which are made in China, which are
Yeah,
cell phone
right.
activated,
Yeah.
which you can't tell me that they don't have the key to
Of
get into
course
it
they
and see
do.
what's going on.
Of course it is.
But FLIR, I've got one at the office on a truck. It's 15 years old,
Yeah.
and it still works like the day it came
Oh
out of
yeah.
the box.
Forward-looking infrared.
And it's awesome. But he's trying to tell us, no, that system's so antiquated. All the cameras are old. They don't work. My system's better. You can go to Walmart and get the cameras.
No,
I have those. I mean,
Now,
Yeah.
how much border does Kenny County share? How many miles?
16 miles.
16 miles.
And
How many infiltration routes in those 16 miles?
it's at least 8.
well, just not on the border. What makes Kenny County a little bit unique is normally when you have a port of entry, you'll have Border Patrol checkpoint on the highway, pretty
Yeah.
close to it.
Yeah.
Here, it's in Uvalde. So
Oh, you don't have
no,
anything here
no,
in.
nothing. It's Uvalde is the closest one. So we have a spider web of roads that spread
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And so the checkpoint over there doesn't really do that much good because there's so many ways around it.
Absolutely.
And
Well, the primary purpose of that one is to push them to the back roads. That's the whole reason that one's there. But just in Kenny County alone, I've got 6 highways that lead from the border, and I only got 6 full-time deputies. So it's impossible to cover all of them at the same time.
DPS on them,
DPS got 6 or 8 people on each highway, but
but they don't leave the highway.
Yeah.
they came down here with great intentions. They really did. And some of them are busting their butts to get the job done. But they've been rotated through here so much they're getting tired.
Yeah.
You know, extended detail, extended TDY, and at some point you start to burn out.
Oh yeah.
But I found that if I went for 2 weeks, at the end of 2 weeks I was ready to go. But if I knew I was going to have to be for 60 or 90 days,
I can hang in there.
it worked better for me to do a long-term one
Yeah.
than a short-term.
Absolutely.
Go home, come back, go home, come back, go home. No, send me for 90, 120 days. I'm fine.
Let me develop an understanding of the area.
But
Yeah.
they're not doing that. They're just rotating them in fast and furious.
Now, last question. How long were you on the Border Patrol?
31 years.
Is this the worst you ever seen?
Worst I've ever seen them. I was the biggest push ever was 1986. That's when they came up with the Immigration Control and Reform Act. Where they set a date that if you had to
Under
be
Reagan.
here before a certain time, that you could apply for some type of relief or amnesty.
Yeah.
Well, the documents started getting photocopied, sent home, and we were being completely
Inundated.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't any uncommon to go down the river by yourself and catch 200 and bring them back. But that was because of a flaw in the ORCA system. And now, but this is just saying,
Come on.
come on.
Yeah, and if they lift Title 42, it's KD's bar
Yeah.
to do it. Thanks.
Yeah. And you know what most people don't realize
Thanks,
is
John.
Border Patrol on a good day will catch 20% of the total.
Oh yeah, it's the getaways, the
Yeah.
gotaways.
Well,
I mean,
what the thing is, those gotaway statistics isn't really. It's not. It's a horrible statistic because. Well, you probably explain it better, but you know, each Border Patrolman, if he physically sees someone getting away or he sees tracks, that's the only way they can do a gotaway. If they fill out paperwork on how many they saw, if they never see anything, they aren't gotaways. Like that statistic's useless. The best thing to do is look at the total apprehensions and say that's about 20%. On a good day, that's 20% of total.
gotta have eyes on.
Yeah, and so the gotaway statistic is useless.
Yeah.
Sheriff Boyd here, when,
Yeah,
like I
Don
said,
Goliad.
when we first signed that document, they've had our back since day one.
Awesome.
And they're 200 miles from the border.
How much of an effect are you seeing down in Goliad?
Drastic impact. I gave a copy of the document I gave to the legislators this week. I gave it to your campaign manager
Thanks.
because, you know, our problem is everybody wants to call this a border crisis and they ignore what's going on. It doesn't just impact the border. We're to a much lesser degree than these guys are. These guys have a lot of walkthroughs. Historically, we haven't had many people on foot since the 80s, but those were migrant workers who were going back and forth. They weren't harming anybody. They would stop for food or whatever, ask for water, or maybe do a little work. But now what we're having is we're having the stolen vehicles come through. We're having large ranches where they're setting up their camps and stash sites where they're stripping stolen vehicles. Saturday before last, or Sunday before last, I was out in Live Oak on the B County line, which is real close to us, which is a major route coming into our northwest portion of the county. The rancher found seats to 14 different trucks stacked around one of the abandoned houses on the ranch. And so, you know, we're having this stuff. They've come in and put all new fence up, but there's other property owners. We're going out, we're monitoring 13 intermittently used stash sites in Goliad County that are used by the cartel to store people, strip trucks, whatever they need to do. And the problem is they'll use a spot, they'll abandon it. They may not come back to it for months. And they may come use it for 2 days and then not come back. So technologically, it takes a lot to be able to find out when they're there. And when you only have 2 deputies on the street at any given time, you got to get your manpower there when you need your manpower there.
That's the size that you have?
Yeah, 2 deputies on the street at any given time. We're not as big as them. We're only 859 square miles.
Yeah.
So, but we still have a lot of back roads. We have 26 entries into the county. When you include all the county roads that go into other counties. We only have 1 incorporated town. With 2 deputies, there are days where it's hard for them to get more than 5 miles out of town on a 12-hour shift. It's hard to patrol that way.
Right.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to provide effective coverage. Anytime we have a pursuit, anytime we have an incident, it's all hands on deck. It's 100%. I'm there. The chief is there. The jail captain, the investigators. It takes everybody, and we still don't have enough manpower to set up just a decent perimeter on most cases. And so,
What would be your wish list if you could grow your agency?
well, what I submitted to TDM for our request that the governor had asked for was, I don't want the state to long-term supplant the budget or the responsibility of county government. County government needs to be able to build stuff up, but for something like this, what I've asked for is 2 more patrol deputies that I can task to this, along with the equipment for them, and then I've also asked for 1 more investigator.
And how much would that be?
My entire package is $945,000 for 2 years, for a 2-year cycle. But it also includes overtime for not just the deputies, but also for the prosecutor to be able to come in and do the prosecutions. It also has overtime for EMS, because we only have 1 ambulance on at a time. So every time this happens, we pull that ambulance and its crew out, they have to pull another one off duty and pay them overtime to come in and cover, just in case, because we don't want the same thing happening to us that happened to them, where somebody dies because our ambulance is busy dealing with illegal aliens or trying to look after the deputies that are out in the field. And so ask for some software as well that would help us. And so, it comes out to $945,000 for 2-year cycle is what we're looking at. So
We have 1 paramedic on duty here, what he was referring to, and they were out on a bailout, and the paramedic's the only one that can do certain things during emergency.
We've found 5 bodies, so we're up to 6 now in the past 2.5 months. And we were good for maybe 1 a year.
And there's a lot more than
now-
that. That's
yeah,
the ones we
and now we've
found.
got 6.
Yeah.
Once hunting season comes around, that's when we'll find a lot
Yeah.
more.
I spent the morning on the phone with Homeland Security. They called me. There's some roads that lead out of our county into a neighboring county, and they found a body last night in the brush that was dumped off. It was an illegal alien who was dumped off, and a while later, somebody called the family and let them know, and so the sheriff's office over there went out, and because we're a little more active than they are as far as on the investigative side and trying to get technology put together, they called and asked for us to try to help out with that. And so I got them in touch with all the right people for that. But I mean, we've had that too. We don't have the numbers these guys have, but we have them, and we're stretched thin when anything happens. That's the biggest problem for us. Personally, I don't want the state and the county business all the time. We've got a crisis. It's going on. We need assistance during this crisis, and when it's over, that responsibility needs to fall back on the commissioners.
Extricate yourselves out.
Yes, the commissioners, at that point, the commissioners need to have an economic plan that ensures that we have the resources we need for our day-to-day operations, which for us is just under 12,000 calls a year for 2 deputies. The county I came from, we had 7 deputies on the street, and we had 14,000 calls a year, and they all complained they were overworked. And I'm like, now we're having 12,000 with 2 deputies on at a time. So,
Well, Brad, we usually have, 2 deputies out in the field, though. You have 6, but
I've got 6, and on a good day, I've got 2
yeah.
at any given time.
Yeah.
And they
That
work
are
12-hour
actually-
shifts.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge help. But we can't get very far out of town because we have other responsibilities here too.
And even our radio equipment.
It's
Our radio equipment's not even working right. Like, we can't even communicate with DPS. We can't communicate at all with Border Patrol because they have totally
You
different.
guys are not on a common
No.
frequency?
no.
I mean, that's one of the
No,
biggest
that-
violations of
I
unity
know.
of command. I mean,
when I first learned about this, I
P25
was like,
compliance was a joke.
yeah, it was.
All of that, all that ability to communicate together when they brought it out. The problem was they let each cog get the money, and the cogs did not all communicate, and we all wound up on different frequencies. We actually can communicate less effectively now than we did before all the money for
it's amazing.
for P25 compliance and interlocal communication.
that's why the
came about.
cartels are kicking our butt right there.
Yeah,
Well, one of
because
the
they're all on the
reasons.
same sheet of music.
Yeah.
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 And you guys have created stovepipes.
Yeah.
And when you create stovepipes, you don't have good synchronization and coordination.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other day, I had to call coordinate. I had to call Border Patrol. There was a truck that was on a ranch. We have a county road that goes through it. I saw it on game cameras, so I called, the law enforcement, Border Patrol, DPS. Never heard anything back. Called Border Patrol. Did y'all find this truck? Oh, I don't know. Let me look into it. Called DPS. Well, we don't know anything about it. Called the sheriff's office. I think we referred that to Border Patrol. So I called back, and no one knew anything about it. But I know we called every single one of them. Like, if That
See,
could cost lives.
Well,
on a
yeah,
trooper.
well, because there should be a fusion center.
Yeah.
Based upon the
There
regions
is a
of the
fusion center. You know what we call it? We call it DPS as. It's called the black hole. You put all the information in it and it disappears
And
forever.
nothing ever comes back.
Never
Feed the
comes
beast.
back. Nothing ever
Feed the
comes
beast.
back.
Yeah. There should
I
be
mean,
a fusion
Now-
center where things come up, and every 3 hours or whatever, there should be a summary intel report.
And when the state, what the state will tell you is we send out intel via the JOIC emails. Well, I'm in Goliad. I don't need to know that Pedro's writing hot checks in El Paso.
Right.
No.
I don't need to know that a backhoe was stolen in Selma, Texas. I don't need to know that they're still in catalytic converters in Houston. I need to know something. I need actionable intelligence.
Yes.
Is what I need, and that's what we keep calling for. We want actionable intelligence. Don't give us junk because it doesn't do us any good. Give us actionable intelligence.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what I tell them. Don't give me a history report. Give me
Yeah.
something that's going on right now.
Yeah.
I've got 3 license plate readers, and I've got 1 deputy that can work it, but he can only work 29 hours.
Absolutely.
29 hours a week.
Yeah.
But he will sit there. I let him work from home. He's got 3 different radios, 3 different computers, and he's logged into these
Can't
LPRs.
be
He's watching
that.
traffic, and he's calling it out as it's happening. That's what we need. That's what we need on a bigger scale.
The SA, situation awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He'll call and say, hey, that truck you're following, it just came through a license plate reader here, here, and here, and he'll map it out for him. It left San Antonio last night at 10 o'clock. It was in Creasel Springs at 1 o'clock this morning. Then it went over here to a known stash area. It's come back up 131. I guarantee it'll be loaded. We stop it, it's loaded.
One guy.
One guy. But because of restraint, I can only work in 29 hours a week.
Absolutely.
If I could have a team like that
Yep.
24/7, we could do a whole lot better with less people.
Of course.
And that's not even touching the foot traffic.
No.
The only people, right now, like I said, if someone walks through, the only people in front of them are the ranchers. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
it. They
some
can
of
walk
them
all the way to
has to
DC.
call or-
Nothing in front of them.
But one thing about working the highways, like DPS is doing, and that whole theory behind it, is to push the traffic into the brush so Border Patrol can chase it, do what they do best, track them down and catch them.
But do they have enough border
They-
patrol?
No,
to do
Right
there's
now,
none.
no. They don't have enough helicopters.
And that's
they don't
why
have-
you need to have a
Right.
full mobilization of your guard to get into the bush. and
Put it
do
this
the
way, on a
patrolling.
good day in our county, we have 2 Border Patrol agents out. 2. 1, 2. That's it. On a good day.
How many square miles?
We got 1,386 square miles.
2 border patrol agents.
So,
And no checkpoints.
and well, they just detailed a bunch of people down, and so I don't know how many came, but hopefully that will relieve some of the processing issues. The locals can get back out and do what they're supposed to do.
The real problem is nothing that we're doing, nothing that the state is doing, nothing that we are doing is actually designed to solve the problem. We're merely mitigating it or pushing it around. That's all we're
You
doing.
kicking a can?
The only way, you're a military man.
Mm-hmm.
Once somebody gets a beachhead on your shores,
Oh, it's over.
exactly. Well, they've got a beachhead.
They're going to expand it.
Exactly. You've lost. It's a matter of time. The only way to win this war is to get Mexico to stop the illegal immigration. The problem is Mexico is in partnership with the cartels and makes money
It's
off of this
financially
entire thing.
beneficial. Yeah.
Exactly. The only way to solve this is to create enough economic pain from the loss of legitimate revenue to outweigh the gain they're making from illegitimate revenue. I've said this I don't know how many times. If I was the governor today, I'd call the president of Mexico and tell him you got 48 hours to turn off the spigot or I shut down every port of entry coming in from your country. And you can drive your asses around in New Mexico. I don't care. Go 7 days without catching illegal aliens, then I'll open up one port. Every 7 days we're not catching people. As soon as we start catching people, I'm gonna start shutting ports down here. You have to make that economic pain felt by the Mexican government. And until we're willing to take that step, it's a drastic measure that most politicians don't want. Take that COVID money we're gonna get, however much it is, take that and help offset the economic loss in the valley that comes as a result of that for those business people down there that depend on trade from Mexico. Take that money and use that to offset their loss. But for the love of God, shut it off. We are losing. We are doing nothing that is actually designed to win the war. We've gone from the mentality of, World War II, we're going to win this no matter what it costs, to a police action like Korea, Well, we don't win Korea, we don't win Vietnam, we don't win this. We have to go back to the mentality of we've got to win, and that's the goal. And we do everything we have to do until we win.
I agree. That's one of the elements of national power.
That's right.
The economic
exactly.
element.
And if the federal government won't do it, the state has to do it.
I
have no faith in the federal government. The state has to step up and do it.
Abbott's been told this exact words. He's been told it, and he's not willing to do it.
Yeah, I tried to get him to shut the ports entry. The problem's not the port; it's between the ports.
See, the problem is when you shut the.
But if you get him here,
that's right. You make the economic pain.
You got to hit him there.
It's like he doesn't comprehend it. He doesn't put it together in his head.
Or, as we say in politics, you got to follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other question I have is, when did the state become so scared of the federal government?
I have no idea.
I mean,
and I don't think it's about the state. I think it's about the people that you have in the position in the states. Because they should not be. The power in the United States of America is with the states. The Declaration, I mean, the United States of America was created by free and independent states. The system of federalism, the 10th Amendment, everything comes back to the states.
Because we ran into that, we're trying to build these soft-sided facilities for the jail, and the major contractors will not touch him because they're afraid of losing federal contracts. So if they say, okay, we're going to run this facility for the state of Texas and everything, they're afraid that the federal government could say, well, you know what, we're going to cancel that contract with you, we're going to go someplace else. So they're threatening their livelihood.
That's economic terrorism.
Yeah. Well, and you got to look at it this way. America is a shining city on the hill. Everybody wants to come to America. No matter where you're at, if you want to prosper, you come to America. In America, Texas is a shining city on the hill, and people who get tired of the totalitarian socialist version of their state want to come to Texas. The problem is they bring those same socialist ideas, not realizing that, as Vladimir Lenin said, the aim of socialism is always communism.
Absolutely.
And he ought to know. He's the architect that helped put it in action. We can't have this. We can't continue down this path because we are the shining city on the hill inside of the shining city on the hill. And if we fade and the country fades, there's nowhere for anybody to go.
Well, you know, I always tell people that the Lone Star illuminates the other 49 on the flag.
Texas is the last beacon of liberty in the world.
Yep.
If Texas falls, the entire world, the liberty will fall.
So,
it's the last refuge for it.
But that, of course, with all this traffic and everything, like I told the governor, what scares me is these ranchers start selling. Say, they're tired of it. Decide who's going to buy the property?
Nobody.
Cartel.
Yeah. Or a Chinese general.
Chinese. I said, well, third, California. But the governor said, we have laws against that. The governor, we got laws against smoking marijuana too, but it still happens.
Yeah.
So what's to keep a dummy company from forming and buying up the property under a Chinese deal?
I mean, the cartel already runs a ton of business in the state of Texas. There are a lot of businesses that are set up for the purpose of laundering money, and slave trade.
Well, see, that's why, again, you've got to designate them as a terrorist organization. When you do that, you can go, again, after their pocket. You can go after the businesses. You can go after the banks, the whole 9 yards.
But you have to take an aggressive stance.
You do.
And you have to realize that sometimes you're going to get a little bit of mud on your face just because of the way politics are. But you have to be willing to take that risk. Sometimes, to hell with the politics, just do what's right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's been the whole story on this. With Goliad helping us, other counties at first, there are several counties that are like, well, we don't want to do a declaration. We don't want to cause any. And then it got bad enough, and they saw other counties doing it. They're like, okay, well, since we're not the first ones, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And then now they're talking about funding. Now everybody's going to hop on the bandwagon.
Oh, yeah.
That's been the problem with this entire mess. Not just the declarations, but the governor, the legislator. They don't want to step up. They're elected to have a job to do, and then when that job needs to be done, they shrink away.
Well, and to be quite honest, it all starts with the letter he wrote. My wife saw his letter. She shared it with myself and the county judge. The county judge called me and said, "Have you read that letter?" I said, "I hadn't had time." He said, "Read that letter." He said, "That letter has changed my life in the way that I'm looking at this." He said, "There are other people that think like us out there. There are people that are willing to express it." And he said, "We've got to go down there this week. We have to." He says, "We've got to go support those guys." And it's turned into a great relationship.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we need. Strength in numbers. Well, you got my commitment.